Please come to order for the June 24th meeting, a special meeting of Glendale City Council. May we have roll call, please?
Council members Friedman.
Here.
Jarian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Mayor Sinanian.
Here. May we have the report, please?
The agenda for the June 24, 2014 special public meeting of the City Council was posted on Thursday, June 19, 2014 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Today's before you is a public hearing, Director of Community Development. This is continued from April 22nd, May 13th, and June 3rd, 2014 regarding proposed general plan map amendment and rezoning of 10 properties along Fernando Court and Cypress Street from industrial mixed use in the land use element of the general plan and from industrial IND to IMUR industrial commercial residential mixed use zone. A is a resolution adopting the negative declaration. B is a resolution adopting the general plan amendment. C is an ordinance for introduction adopting the proposed zoning map amendment.
Yes, can we have a...
Yes.
Spears?
Mayor Sinanian and members of the City Council, I'd like to ask Jeff Hamilton to come on up and give us a brief presentation.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Council, before you is proposed general plan amendment and zone change. This would affect 10 properties on Fernando Court and Cypress Street. The general plan would change from industrial to mixed use, and the zoning would change from industrial to IMUR, industrial commercial residential mixed use. This is a minor change in the boundaries of the zones established back in 2004. It's intended to create some greater compatibility between the existing land uses and the proposed land uses. This was initiated by Council this year on February 18th. This is a zoning map showing the 10 affected properties in bold outline of black that would change from industrial to the proposed zoning of industrial commercial mixed use. Some of the properties face only Fernando Court, some only Cypress Street, and 2 of the properties are through lots that face both Fernando Court and Cypress Street. Here's an aerial photograph of the properties in question. This property here is the wood, sort of an old lumber yard that's in this building. This is auto-related. This one, when I was out there, was vacant. And then there's a variety of other industrial, a small church activity, and an outdoor sort of storage yard here. This is the location of the proposed high-rise development that you've seen fairly recently, the Tropico project. When we initiated this, Council asked us to evaluate the potential impact, what this rezoning could mean for future population growth. If the entire site was improved, all the properties were improved with residential project, you could have 346 dwelling units according to the straight zoning standards, but up to 467 if you had the density bonus on the entire site. With that 467 unit sort of possibility, that would add up to 840 additional people on these properties. The housing element projects roughly 6,000 units and 14,000 more people in the city out in the year 2035. That's our future growth that we're anticipating or allowed for, not necessarily anticipating. Full development of the properties with 840 people and the 467 potential units is well within the parameters of what the housing element anticipates. The Planning Commission considered this zone change on March 19th, and they opposed the zone change. Their reasons included that they thought this could erode the industrial base, that it was premature to do this at this time in advance of the South Glendale community planning effort that's underway, and in advance of the transit-oriented development study that's underway, and that a larger area should be evaluated, not just these few properties. It's worth noting that there's only one land use that would be excluded from the allowed list of land uses with this change. All the current industrial land uses, including all the current uses out there other than one, would be allowed to remain. They would not become non-conforming.
What's the one?
It would be the homeless shelter. And our understanding is the homeless shelter is already either moved out or is about to lose their lease to move out of that property. So in effect, the proposed zone change would not render any of the existing land uses out of compliance with the zoning.
And the homeless shelters, are we referring to Ascensia?
Yes.
And they're out, right? They're in different locations. Okay.
This moves the transitional boundary by one street from where the current zone boundary is. And this action today, if you choose to introduce it today, does not preclude a larger evaluation or another rezoning at some point in the future after the South Glendale plan comes in, is completed, and after the transit-oriented development is completed. Your alternatives today are to approve the general plan amendment and the zone change, or at least introduce the ordinance. You can also receive the Planning Commission comments and take no action today, or you could give staff some specific direction about how you'd like to proceed. That completes my presentation.
I have a question. So I'm assuming that if we were to change the zoning, we wouldn't necessarily have to allow that density of housing, right? I mean,
No, we wouldn't. And in fact, if I may, we wouldn't recommend against it. If a proposed housing project was there, we would recommend against it because IMU-R zone, the -R piece of it is residential use with a conditional use permit. One of the findings that we would have to make that the use of residential would be compatible with the use adjacent to it. In this case, we do not think that the use adjacent on the zone that is industrial and our residential zone would be compatible. We would not recommend it ever for an approval.
for any residential or any residential of that scale?
The only residential that we might recommend it for would be live-work units.
Because I was going to say,
Yes.
I'm not for having, I'm not for having that density of residential in that zone, period. But if someone was going to do a creative workspace and wanted to have some live units for the workers, a very limited amount, I would love to see a zoning that would allow that. So if you had a building, let's say, for animation or for, one of the typical uses we see in the creative corridor, sound mixing or whatever, and somebody wanted to have 12 units for those people to live on site because, they work so late, whatever, I would like to have zoning that allowed that, but not 600 units, not 400 units, not even 200 units. Can we create a zoning that would allow?
We actually have that. That's right now under the IND zone it's allowed, and it would be allowed under IMU. We have some restrictions.
So it's allowed now if we don't change the zoning, you mean? Or
Yes, and if we change the zoning, it'll still be allowed.
But why are you recommending a zone change?
We are recommending the zone change so that it will be more, the transition from where we have IMUR to industrial, there will be actually a transition buffer right now. And the industrial zones that exist, the industrial uses that exist right there meet the criteria for 10,000 square feet or under. And the only thing that changes under the IMU-R zone is the industrial uses. If they're larger than 10,000 square feet, we need to give them some special attention as a transition to the residential.
I'm sorry. I still don't understand. What would change then? If you don't want to have that kind of, but this would, if we did this change, it would allow.
Very little is changed. The change is that the site will be restricted to industrial and commercial uses, as opposed to now that it's not.
So if we change it, we're not saying that we're going to allow 600 units to go there.
Not necessarily. No, we're not.
Can we just sort of take that out of the equation?
No, because of the zoning designations that we have are the way that they are. But again, I emphasize the residential piece is a discretionary review permit. It's not by right, and we would not ever recommend that.
Yes, Mr. Najarian?
And I appreciate that, and I applaud your position. But we're possibly in the future, we could have Mr. Rodney Kahn up here and pleading to the council, but council members, just across the street, you've already approved a large, dense housing development. What's wrong if we just continue that theme across the street? He would make that argument, I presume, and I hope that you remain firm in your position today that you would not recommend that due to the need for a transition zone between the...
I will remain firm because I stay with strongly that the finding that you do not have two incompatible uses next to one another and two adjacent zones cannot be made correctly. I really believe that. Stay firm.
Stay firm, Mr. Hagani. Don't let those slick developers
I'll be firm.
their magic on you and make you, the Jedi mind trick. I appreciate that position, and I applaud your position, although that's not the issue before us. It's really a tangential issue, but I very much appreciate your position on this.
As long as he's still working here.
Sure, there will be others who will be watching.
That's right.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
If there are no more questions, we have someone who would like
What
to
are we
act
doing?
on this?
Two resolutions
Two
and an
resolutions.
ordinance.
Well, it's a public hearing. Did you open and close?
No, it's open public hearing.
No cards?
Yes, Mr. Weaver?
It's closed. If the public hearing is closed, I'll move 1A. We can do them all together?
You can do 1A and B, and then...
Move
and then-
1A and B.
Second.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Council members: Friedman,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Sinanian.
And
Yes.
And I'll introduce the ordinance at 1C.
Okay, it's been introduced.
To adjourn?
Second?
Now adjourned. Okay. Please come to order for the June